my name is Brian Benson with James Bean Estate Sales in Oklahoma City, and today I'm here to talk to you about some things that people don't really, when they see them, they don't really know what they do. And it's hard for us to remember, that, when you're dealing with people who are, 20 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old, that, since we didn't live in the Victorian era, there's lots of things that were so commonplace to them that we still find today that when the average person looks at them, they have no idea what these things are for. And a lot of times at the estate sales, they're looking at them and I have to go over and explain it to them, and they're looking at me in disbelief because they just can't believe some of the stories. But anyway, so I'm going to explain to you some what we call common items in the Victorian to early 1950s that are no longer common today, so that when you see them in estate sales, you actually can see, you'll actually know what they're for. So we're going to start off with this over here. This is not, as it looks, a really nice latte mug. People look at this and they always make jokes about a big cappuccino or latte, but it's not. This actually is a chamber pot. And before we had toilets, everybody had these little stands and beside their bed that were marble lined or metal lined, and through the night, instead of going to the outhouse, you would use this pot, put it in your cabinet, and then the next morning the maid would come and retrieve this and take it out for you. And so, yes, that's what this is for. But now when people see them, because everybody has a toilet, nobody ever thinks about what you had to do before you had toilets. This here, which is kind of interesting. I had a friend who, she found these and she just fell in love. She thought they were the most unique serving dishes. This is actually what we call a bone dish, and it's a waste dish. And in the Victorian era, which served lots of fish, you would get this, and the reason why it's curved, it would slide up next to your dinner plate, and as you ate things, and you'd encounter bones or things you didn't want to eat, you'd put it in this little waste part over here so it wasn't on your plate. And then the contents of this would be discarded. Now, obviously you can do other things with it. You don't have to use it as a bone plate. You can also use it as serving dishes, but that's actually what this originally was intended for. These two little things here, people always joke that these are little barbells for babies, and people never can really figure out what they're for, but in the era before we had washing machines where everybody had to do laundry manually and everybody ate at home and had formal tablecloths, these are knife rests, and when you were eating, you would rest your knife blade on the edge or on this edge, and that prevented your tablecloth from getting dirty, because if you had butter or sauce on it and got the tablecloth dirty, you had to wash it. Yes, this had to be manually washed, and sometimes you'd wear out the fabrics. They tried to wash stuff as few times as possible so these would last longer, and these help preserve the tablecloths to keep it from getting dirty. This right here is kind of fun because people never know what they are. They always think they're like nut dishes, but this is a master salt cellar, and on a lot of tables you would have a whole lot of coarse salt in here, and you would, when you needed salt, you would scoop it out, put it in these little tiny dishes right here, and this little dish would also have a little teeny tiny little spoon. And this little spoon, you'd then use that spoon to salt your food. And everybody would have their own little individual salt. And of course, also they had shakers at the same time, and shakers became the more common thing. So now we don't really see these. A lot of times people do use these for nut dishes or mint dishes, like on formal settings. And you can also use, these for other little things. The tip is on things that are no longer used the way that we no longer need is to try to figure out how to repurpose them to, figure out other ways that you can use them and integrate them into daily life to make them kind of fun and not something that you're going to see every day like a wall. Okay, these next two items are kind of fun. This would typically have been a hat pin holder, and in the era where people wore hats to keep them from blowing off your head, you had these big pins that would go through that would stick them through your hair. And we don't really wear hats like we used to, and so this would originally been for hat pins. Some of these have much larger holes, so you can do larger hat pins. I've actually seen where people actually convert these and actually use like hors d'oeuvres or toothpicks in them, and they have like hors d'oeuvres on tables. You can do other little things or collect other little things and use them for it. This, although this is closed, many times you'd see these that have a big hole in the middle, and they were called hair receivers. And it was very common in the Victorian era for people, or for women, as they brush their hair, they save their hair, and then they weave it into jewelry or watch chains or things such as that. And they would save the hair, and once they had enough hair, they'd turn it into, or weave it into certain items. This is a tea caddy. And people, tea used to be very expensive. It wasn't $1 for a big box like it is now. It used to be very expensive, and because of that, people would lock up their tea, or they'd keep it sealed because it was, it was a priced commodity. And this would actually seal your tea for keep it from getting stale. Now we don't do that, so these go unused, and a lot of times I've seen these $10 at online, or sometimes even at estate sales. But the fun things you can do with these is it would be wonderful if you turn it into a little jewelry box. You can get some velvet, wrap it, actually do like a big presentation box and do it for jewelry. You can do all sorts of really fun things if you just kind of get the idea to repurpose them. This obviously is a candle holder, but what makes it unique is you see where it has a little lever that can raise and lower the candle. And the urban legend, and this may be true, but this is always a story I've heard, is when people came to visit, you would set the candle so that if you liked the person, you would set the candle higher. If you weren't really fond of the person, you would set the candle lower, because it was considered improper in the culture to stay longer than the candle. When the candle burned down to the base, that was when you were supposed to leave. So if someone was well liked, you'd set the candle higher so they could hang out longer. When they weren't liked, you'd set it lower so it would, they'd obviously be in your house a much shorter time. And I've always heard this, and there's many different styles of these. In the South, the little corkscrew one that with this little lever would slide around was much more common. So you see lots of different levers, and that's the story that kind of goes along with them. And the last thing I'm going to show you, also remember there are so many items from the Victorian era and the early 20th century that we have no idea what, most people now no longer have any idea. I mean, I could make hundreds of videos, with these types of items, but this is just kind of what I have just on hand for today. Last thing is, obviously, it's a tea set. Everybody knows this is a tea set. You put tea in one, you put coffee in the other, and everybody knows, the tray, the cream, and the sugar. But what people never wonder, or people always ask me about, is this little bitty tiny one in the middle. They never know what that's for. And this is actually the waste thing, because when you're doing formal tea and you're sitting in someone's house, and as you pour your tea and as you sit there and you converse, and then your tea gets cold, well, you can't just go into your kitchen and dump it out in the sink. That would be considered rude. So you would dump the tea or your coffee into the waste receptacle, and then you pour yourself a fresh cup or a fresh pot. And that way you can always have fresh tea as you're talking to them, and then your discard would go in this little thing here. And a lot of times these obviously go missing because people through the years, they don't know what they do or what they're for, so they get repurposed into little flower pots or other things. Anyway, that's kind of a short list of little fun things that we find in the estate sales that often leave people wondering, and now when you go to your next estate sale, you'll know what they are too.